Isn't Manqoba Bowl so fun to watch? Manqoba Bowl to me is the best of both worlds. You get the control, you get the passing, you get the possession, you get the number of passes that you would under or rulani, but there's an extra bite that Mamelodi Sundowns team has. I look at it as a team that is playing similar to how Klopp's Liverpool plays. They're not going to attack you for 90 minutes. They're not going to go at you relentlessly over and over and over again. But what they will do is make sure that a couple of times through the game, they'll have 10-minute spells where they are just incredible. They just want to kill. They just want to, they just want to make sure they score as many goals as they can. And I think that's going to be a welcome change from the possession-based or purely possession-based outlook that they had last season. A big difference between Manqoba's Sundowns and Coach Rulani's Sundowns is that Coach Manqoba's Sundowns wants to go score. They're willing to take risks. They're willing to play longer balls. They're willing to exploit different weaknesses. Whereas Coach Rulani's Sundowns sort of waited. And the nice thing about Coach Manqoba, and maybe something he didn't get right this game, but the nice thing about him is that he's willing to make those changes around the 60th, 65th minute, where he'll change things around and put pressure. Coach Rulani would wait until the last 10, 15 minutes in order to do that, and it would be very unstructured. I think having Tashreeq on the pitch with Reyners is very interesting, especially when paired with Ribeiro. And the reason why I speak of the Liverpool comparison, sorry to interrupt this video, but I need a little bit of your help. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see my subscribe account. And if you can, I'd be very grateful if you would subscribe. That is actually the best way to support this channel, because the bigger that number is, the better it looks to potential guests and other brands and companies that I will approach for sponsorship. It may seem like a very small thing to ask for, but it actually helps with all of this. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the video. Is that Ribeiro plays a lot like the Firmino role. He would drop back into midfield, he would facilitate things, he was picking apart that Marumo Gallants defensive midfield in order to make space for Reyners and Tashreeq. So Reyners and Tashreeq, think of them as Salah and Sadio Mane. They're there to take advantage of those wide areas. And one of the things they capitalized on in this game is Marumo Gallants' defensive ill-discipline. Marumo Gallants' defense couldn't even hold a defensive line. And what was happening was that the right and left back would jump out to go meet an Allende, to go meet a Ribeiro, leaving space for Reyners, for Tashreeq Williams to find a gap where they had left space. And what was frustrating me the most about Marumo Gallants' setup was that it's such an easy fix. If you're playing a back three, come back five, and you're letting your left back and right back push forward, you have to make sure that one of your defensive midfielders drops in and you can make it a four and cover those spaces. Or bin that back three, make it a back four, and make sure that when Reyners is running at the left back, you have center back cover. But they weren't doing that. And what's very irritating about what Marumo Gallants brought into that game is that you could feel that was a team that finished 11th in the NFD last season. That was a team that bought a status to get into the PSL. That was a team that hired a coach, fired that coach, hired another one right before the season started. And you could see the gaps in the quality, you could see the gaps in them being unsure. And Mamelodi Sundowns took advantage, especially in the first, let's say, 60 minutes. Mamelodi Sundowns should have scored 8 goals. They should have really put them to the sword. And what's starting to ring alarm bells for me, and maybe it's good that it came so early for Mamelodi Sundowns, is that you have to keep that up for 90 minutes. You have to play for the full 90 minutes, because towards the end of that game, after Coach Manqoba made some sloppy substitutions and the game broke down, Marumo Gallants could have been 2 goals back in. They got a penalty, which was missed. They scored after that. They forced Williams into a couple of saves that maybe he wouldn't have to do if they were switched on. And what Coach Manqoba is going to have to watch out for is a complacency from that team, which is great that this is a wake-up call that they can get. But I want to go back to some words that I spoke about a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, when we spoke about Coach Manqoba coming in. The reality of the situation was that Coach Manqoba was stepping into a team that had just gotten rid of their head coach very quickly. It didn't seem like they had a plan for it, and there wasn't enough time for a new coach to come in and implement a full plan. Coach Manqoba was basically in preseason for a while, and I think the blessing in disguise was the losses to Stellenbosch, because the losses to Stellenbosch maybe also changed his mind on how he wants to set up that team. Some of the chameleon traits, some of the possession traits of Mamelodi Sundowns have been kept now, and you're seeing that he's playing sort of a hybrid game where he can be very patient, but the moment they start seeing some mistakes, they're far quicker to take advantage of them, which is a good thing going forward. The only scary thing is the more chances you create, the more chances you allow. And my worry about Mamelodi Sundowns going forward, if not fixed, is if you're going to change things 65th minute and maybe get your goals there and do those things, what's going to happen if a team scores 1 goal early or 2 goals early before you make the subs? Can you afford to be that patient once you're down? And that is not something, and still very early, and there's very few teams, I believe, that are going to be able to take advantage of Mamelodi Sundowns like that. But I think it is something that Coach Manqoba has to look out for, because if there's one thing we've learned about Sundowns, you will get chances against them. It's up to you to finish them. We have yet to see a team that can finish those chances consistently and put them under pressure. What's also great about this Mamelodi Sundowns team is that they are rotating on What's also great about this Mamelodi Sundowns team is the rotation. If you had told me last season that Khuliso Mudau and Tebza Mokwena would not even feature on the bench for Mamelodi Sundowns and they'd still win games and they'd still look fluid and they'd still look good, I wouldn't believe you. If you had told me that there'll be a DDC player coming in, we'd see some of the guys who had been sitting on the bench throughout Coach Rulani's time and they'd be playing well, I wouldn't believe you. But these are the wonders of a new coach and a new system. It gives everybody a chance to prove themselves. And maybe it reminds some of the other guys that you're not Sundowns. And for whatever reason that you guys are fighting in the background, allegedly, whatever reason there's clashing, there's people who can take your spot. And whatever allegiance the previous coach had to you is gone. So I think that is a very important thing, owing to the fact that Mamelodi Sundowns struggled with rotation last season and had a very tired team by the end of the year. Scraping by. Couldn't trust the guys who are on the bench. So I think Coach Manqoba is showing that there's players on the bench. There's players that are ready to come in. And I'm glad that he's giving them time now early, so that when they are called upon during the tough times, the game every 3 days and all of that, you're not stretching some of the guys to have to play all those games. Hopefully Bo Allende can get a rest, for example, even though he's one of the guys that haven't been rested. So I'm really loving the fact that Coach Manqoba is using that squad. And I think it's a good thing for Mamelodi Sundowns going forward, coupled with this new system of being ruthless up front, of creating a lot of chances. I think this bodes very well for Sundowns, but it's still very early. Coach Dan Dance is one of my favorite coaches in the league. I've often said that my disappointment with Coach Dan Dance is that he hasn't taken the next step. And if you listen to the words that he's spoken before matches, you can tell that there's something that's happening there behind the scenes. But Coach Dan Dance, you can't You can't allow those things to come in now in the season, and you better fix them quickly, because 3 losses in a row to a new Chiefs team, to a Golden Arrows, and now to a Mamelodi Sundowns doesn't look good on you. And we just know that Coach Kerr is just itching to come back and coach that team as he was meant to. So, Coach Tentens, we've watched you, we've loved your play, but we have to be honest with you and say that you're not moving forward. And what we saw on the pitch in this game was completely unacceptable from a coach of your caliber, from a coach that we trust, from a coach who's been trying to campaign to get in with the big teams. We can't watch a midfield that doesn't know how to play. We can't watch a defense that can't keep a line. We can't watch a defense that doesn't know when to go or when to stay. We can't watch a defense and a team that keeps getting hit with the same thing. Reyners was running up that right-hand side so many times because he understood that that was the gap. And Sundowns played that side so much. Allender shot it over the bar after a cutback. A lot of things happened that you don't expect from a PSL level team. And I think I want to end this off by speaking to Marumo Gallants. We can't treat you like a new team. We can't treat you like a team that wasn't relegated 2 seasons ago. We can't treat you like a team that is buying a status for the first time, because you're not. So while everybody's going to be talking about how you have to adjust and all of the things that have happened, you don't have any room. All of the money that has been spent to bring that team back, all of the excitement that has been brought back to Bloemfontein, let's not become a Cape Town Spurs and go down immediately. You have to fix things. Does that mean releasing players? Possibly. Does that possibly mean getting a better coach? That could be one of the fixes. But you have to prove that you're not just a placeholder in this league. And what we saw in that game, the first 60 or so minutes, was very scary. Well done to Mamelodi Sundowns for another 4-goal haul. Let's see what happens over the weekend when they meet the Kaizer Chiefs.